Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video we're going to be doing a few jobs on our orange 1962 Bolens Ride-a-matic. So this tractor has been in use for a while now, and that's highlighted a few issues with it, and also one that it's fixed itself, which that is with the rear tyres. They were going down quite frequently, and we bought some new tubes for them to put those inside the tyres so that they weren't dropping air. However, the second we bought these tyres have stayed up ever since, so not fully sure how that works, but these will just be going in our stockpile now. No point them sitting in the toolbox of the tractor where they have been when no air is coming out of the tyres anymore, so that's handy. Not fully sure how that works. And the other main fix that we're doing today is we'll be turning the pulley round on the starter generator here, because as you can see in this whole area there's loads of belt fur because it is shredding the electric start belt, and that's because it doesn't actually line up. If I put this across that pulley, you can see this sticks out further than it should do. I mean, the outside edges of these pulleys are pretty much the same diameter. It's more illustrated if I do it like that. And on both of our other electric start Rideamatics, this pulley is the other way around. So we're going to take this nut off, hopefully pull this off, push it back on, do the nut up. Hopefully it's that simple. We'll have to see. Probably won't be, but we'll find that out later. And then some of the other jobs we'll be doing is more of putting new bits on rather than fixing something. We have here a deck drive that we're going to be fitting as well, so that hopefully in future we can mount one of our underbelly decks to this tractor. So the first thing we'll do is to sort out this pulley, and the good thing with having the spring tensioner on the starter generator there is you can just take the belt off very easily, and you can see here just how much that's worn it down. There is a ridge around the edge of the belt as well, so we'll add a new belt to the list of things to change when we do maintenance on this tractor at some point. Put that down there for now. And now to try and take this nut off. At first I'm going to see if I can just whack the impact on it and try and beat the speed of rotation by just going full speed with this. If not, then I'll try and find something else to hold it with, because I don't really want to hold it in my hands and then get my finger caught with this. Oh, that works. Didn't think that was actually working at first, but it did. The spring washer looks like there's a little keyway on there. See if this comes off by hand. I doubt it. I'd imagine we'll need a puller. Yeah, so we'll come back to you in a couple of minutes. We struggled for a little while trying to find a puller of the right size, but we've got one now, and we shoved an extension under there so that hopefully it won't just spin, it'll actually come off, but we'll have to see how that goes, and we'll give it a try. Oh, literally no torque I had to put on that pretty much, so quite handy. I'm just trying to hold this the rest of the way. As you saw there and heard, usually you'd hear the impact going off on one effectively, but that came off very easily actually. So I'm sure we'll give this area a bit of a clean up before turning it round again. So we have this area and the pulley itself cleaned up now, and we've just lightly oiled the shaft before we put this back on. Now it's interesting, this side doesn't have any paint on it, which this is the side that should be on the outside, so clearly this has been the wrong way round since this was painted, orange at least. However, if we put this the way around that we think it should be, when you look down the line at it, it looks pretty lined up. So we do think this switching this round is still the right idea. So I'll just try and line this up here. I hope it goes on as easily as it came off. Hard to tell whether I've actually lined up the rough key slot correctly or not, but that is a thing, so I have to give it a few gentle taps here. Might be at the end there now, I think. Just see if that's lined up. Yeah, I think it is. So now it's just a case of putting the spring washer back on and seeing whether the same trick with the impact will tighten it up again. So we have the pulley all done up now, and we've put a new spring washer on that bolt there, seeing as that nut was slightly loose, so that should hopefully stop that from coming loose again in future. And now we will put the belt on again. Already have had a look, but I'll have another look now. That does appear to be much better lined up now, and with this whole area cleaned up, we should be able to see if it starts shredding the belt again, especially like it was before. So that is one job down, easier than we thought it would be. On to the next. So the next job is to mount the deck drive on this side, which when we got this tractor, it was missing these two pulleys. You may remember it was in a bit of a state, but the replacement ones that we got from America came with the deck drive pulleys on this shaft on both sides, which we thought was quite handy, seeing as we had the original deck pulley there on the engine pulley. So the only bit missing was this, which we also got shipped over from America. The pulley was seized, it's now turning, but makes a little bit of a gritty noise, but that'll do. Now this mounts on the chassis somewhere around here, and then that bracket goes on there. So if I just kind of demonstrate what happens when you pull the PTO lever, that's disengaged. Push that down, that pivots, tensions the belt and engages drive. Now obviously you need something to mount it with, and that was missing when we got it. However, off camera we have quickly made up a pin to go through there, which goes through those holes like that, obviously actually in the bracket. And that was very straightforward. That was just a bit of 3/4 bar that we used the lathe to turn down this end, and then tap it with the 3/8 thread and drill a hole through the center there for the R-clip. And the advantage of using the lathe is we can put a bevel on this end and make it all look a bit more presentable. But with that done, you'd think it's just time to bolt that straight on. However, first we have to put the belt on, which we've got a new one for this, and this has to go on first because it's actually got to go behind this bracket, which goes to the engagement lever, and on the other end is attached to this bracket, which is attached to a whacking great spring, which if we just let that go is going to send that spinning, and we don't want that. Which if any of you have ever used a 1962 Rideamatic, you'll know that PTO lever is very stiff, which is also why we don't really like kids sitting on our 1962 Rideamatic at shows, because obviously if they pull that down from about there onwards, it's going flying on its own, and that's going to leave quite the bruise, and obviously we don't want that happening at shows. But what we're going to do, or try to do, is my cameraman's going to hold the spanner on there to try to stop that spinning around while I'm taking the other bit off of it. He's going to try and hold that while we're videoing. So if I just take this off quickly, the belt's got to go behind the spanner, and then he'll take that off, and then I'll deal with the rest of it hopefully. So if I just try and sit that somewhere there, we'll see what my cameraman's able to do here. Effectively, if he can take the tension of that, I can pull this off and get the belt behind it, but we'll have to see how this goes. There we are. Right, you happy with that?
I'll help. Can't remember which way I need to go.
That way, there we are. Right, so if I can just get that up a little bit further. Right. That is off. There we are. Right, if you let go of that now, that is that on. And the belt behind there. Now to actually put this piece on, we've taken the nut and the spring washer off of this end, obviously left the R-clip on there, and while I'm putting this on, this piece here should actually be the other side of the belt. However, we'll worry about that and adjust it in a minute, and I'll just put that on one of those holes to locate it. And then I can try to put this spring washer and nut onto the back of here and fix this on first, then we can pivot it around and adjust it and whatever else we need to do after that. That's about as tight as it gets by hand. So we've now adjusted all of this setup. You can see the angle that we've got this at. Now before that was down here, but we've moved it up here as per the manual, and we've put a washer and an R-clip on there, so none of that is coming off. And now when the engine spins, or the engine pulley spins, this doesn't move with it, which is good. It does rub a bit, and that might be solved by the thing that's missing from here, which is a second one of these that comes from here and holds underneath here a bit. We'll have to keep our eyes out on the Facebook groups and stuff like that to see if anyone's selling any of those, because that would be easier than making one, but that is the alternative there, of course, so we might do that at some point. I'll just quickly engage this so you can see what it looks like. Nice and tight, and then, as I said, in disengaged position, the engine no longer drives it, so we are happy with that. Now moving on to the last job for today, is also related to fitting a deck to this tractor. The last job is to free off this pin, which is currently seized in this deck mounting bracket here. Obviously can't put a deck on here until this actually comes off, so we're going to take the whole bracket off to do this, and that also means we can take this foot peg off and straighten it up, because it does bend downwards towards this end. In theory, we should be taking this gently, because these are captive nuts. However, they have come off before so that we could put these pulleys on, so I'm hoping this shouldn't be too difficult. One. That may sound like it was difficult, but as I said, I was just taking it slow due to them being captive nuts. There we are, and there's some nice original paint on there too. So we unstuck the pin, and we did this by just taking the R-clip off and then giving it a swift hit with the hammer. We push this back in again and it's stuck again, so I'll just quickly whack that out again. So clearly these don't fit together the smoothest, so we're going to clean these parts up a bit, and then this will be ready to go back on. So we've had a bit of a clean up now and lightly oiled this pin, and if I show you here, it fits nice and smoothly in there now, so that is all good. And we've also cleaned up this panel as well, gotten rid of as much of the red and blue paint as we can, and it's left some nice patinaed gold paint on there, which is actually quite nice. I think that first layer of blue paint that was on there was painted directly over the gold, so it's preserved a decent amount of it, and then obviously the nice original paint on the inside where it hasn't been exposed to conditions as much as the outside has. But if I start to line this up again to put it back on, you can see this is actually on slots, both of the bolt holes, and that is because this movement is actually your adjustment for how tight the belt is that goes from the pulley that's on the other side of this shaft, so on that side, down to the deck. That is the adjustment for how tight that belt is. Obviously, the further back this goes, the tighter it is, further forward, the looser it is, by moving the entire deck forward or backwards effectively. Obviously, there isn't a deck on there at the moment, so I'm just going to put this where it has been sitting. But when we fit a deck to this tractor, we'll have to do that bit of adjustment on there, which I'm sure that the manual will help us out a decent amount with that to make sure we actually get it right. If I just wipe this on with the ratchet ring. Go around there. That one's easier to do first because you have the foot peg on the other one, which we cleaned up a bit and gave a swift hit with a hammer while it was in the vise, and that straightened that out nicely. And this is ready to go back on as well. Which most of our Rideamatics, we have these at quite a bit of angle. However, obviously with these deck hanger brackets on there, you can't angle these more than this. So our tractors with deck hangers on have the foot pegs at a slightly different angle. Now this pin can go back in and the R-clip can go back in as well. With that all bolted up now, that is our jobs for the day done. That went way better than it usually does for us. We're not going to start anything new now, because you know that's when it will go wrong, but it's a couple of good jobs done on this tractor. Small improvements, but there's still improvements nonetheless. Now, when we were cleaning this panel up, as we showed you, we managed to get a decent amount of the original paint up from under this horrible orange and blue mishmash of paint. So that begs the question, which we pose to everyone watching: do we try to do this over the entire tractor and see how much gold paint we can bring up? Positives of that, we might get a decent amount of gold up and then this will look nice and original, or we'll take this off and there'll just be rust underneath. Either way, we're not fully sure what we want to do yet. This is a working tractor, so it's probably not getting taken to any shows, so at the end of the day it doesn't matter ever so much how how badly it looks. However, that's the question we pose to you, and we're going to have a little think about what we'd like to do with this as well. But that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.